Hi, welcome. My name is Angelina and I've been seeing a lot of videos about trends that we should be leaving behind as we enter the new year. And as your favorite super critical annoying second gen stan, I figured I had enough pent up anger from throughout the years to make an entire video about this. So yes, today I'm going to be going into detail about the things in K-pop that royally piss me off. So I believe the first person to do this for K-pop trends was this lovely individual, but I was inspired by a few of these thumbnails to do this myself. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with friends you don't have, and joining my channel memberships to help support this channel in a different way. First K-pop trends that I would love to leave behind in 2020 are within the fashion department, so buckle up. The first thing is something I'm sure a lot of us can agree with, and that is uncomfortable fashion. Now this can of course apply to boy groups as well, but I've seen it a lot more within girl groups. Now I need to really preface this by saying there's nothing wrong with wearing whatever you want, but when you're wearing something that is visibly making you feel uncomfortable, then and people will always do like compilations of idols being uncomfortable in their clothing, and it just makes my skin crawl. For girl groups in particular, you might notice that they'll have specific types of skirts that will fold up as they're doing very intricate choreography. So inevitably they have to constantly pull it back down, or maybe they don't even notice and they're performing the entire song with their skirt folded all the way up. And I know they already have shorts under that and then shorts underneath those shorts. I just feel as though it's inconvenient, and for what? You already went through the effort of having all of these layers. You couldn't have figured out a way to like pin down that skirt so it doesn't keep flying up. For example, in Black Mamba or in Feel Special stages, you'll notice this, especially within the fan cams. So I think it's one thing to wear something if you love it, but it's another thing to wear it and feel incredibly uncomfortable in it. And on that note of fashion, since I'm already going to K-pop hell, might as well go down in flames, denim. All the denim enthusiasts are going to say that denim is comfortable, and I have to say, I don't believe you. And originally I didn't want to drag any companies into this, but ever since AESPA has blocked my last video worldwide after I spent 46 hours on it, no one is safe. So MBC, you're up next. Now I'll have you know, I calculated through a scientific study that MBC statistically has the most terrible denim stages out of any other company. Why is that, you might ask? I don't know, but something fishy is going on with MBC and I'm not here for it. And after that passionate speech, it ended up being KBS, but this sentiment still remains. And then lastly, the cowboy trend needs to stop. TXT Blue Hour, it was kind of subtle. It wasn't like the main focal point, but then, you have Monster X Fantasia and it's like, no. So the next trend that I would love to leave behind is the Snow app. I just think a lot more of us need to be more aware that content is edited even when we think it's not. Now I know that beauty standards exist and not even I am exempt from wanting to follow them. I actually have a skin smoothing filter on this camera, so anyone who thinks that I need to drop my skincare routine or whatever the case may be, it's all fake. Everything is fake. Your idols have skin smoothing filters in their vlogs as well, trust me. And I understand why they do this, because honestly, people are mean. People are gonna hate you no matter what, but if you can prevent them from hating you for your skin texture or your pimples, then that's like one less thing to worry about. I totally get it. I'm not knocking that. I'm not trying to sit on some high horse as if I don't use skin smoothing filters, as if I don't kick on makeup when I go in front of the camera. But god damn it, I've been wanting to call out my faves on this for so long. If you are an ATEEZ or an alleged ATEEZ, you know exactly what sentiment I'm trying to evoke right now. I know a lot of groups are super guilty of this. And rather than getting kind of mad at the idols and wondering, why are you changing your face structure? You don't even look like yourself. I would rather pour my energy into just talking about these things more and helping people understand that what they usually see is edited, and idols have bad skin days too, as does everyone else. For example, J-Hope in his LA vlog, within the thumbnail, you see he has no skin smoothing filter, but then within the video itself, you see it throughout the entirety of it. ATEEZ as well, I've noticed in their vlogs, you can tell by the way their hair is affected or how sometimes they forget to apply that filter. So it's okay to just simply be informed of these things and not try to compare yourself to something that was edited. And we can all admit it's not just K-pop. I mean, Western celebrities do it as well, just in a different way. Nothing is real. And as much as I want it to be real, I also know that society-wide, it's an issue. And it's not just like a simple fix of, You know, more people need to be more authentic. When people are authentic, they get shit on. When they're not authentic, they get shit on. But at least it's like a lesser of two evils. So I can't say the Snow app exactly is the issue. It's obviously deeper than that. So another thing I would love to leave behind is criticizing idols' English. Every time there's an English version of a song coming out, people are very quick to judge. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I used to be that type of person. I used to be someone who put the languages that I spoke on some type of pedestal as if that made me a better person. And spoiler alert, it really doesn't. Kind of makes you a dick. But the backwards thing is that this is something that like everyone is taught in school. You're taught to have perfect grammar. You're taught to speak perfectly in the most standard version of the language that you possibly can. And then you end up belittling anyone who doesn't fit that standard. And it's okay if you once thought this way, but it's also never too late to learn why it's harmful. People have accents, people have different dialects of the same language that you're speaking, and just because it's different from the way you speak doesn't mean that it's wrong. People have very valid ways of speaking that completely differ from the way you do. And you know, I'm really interested in sociolinguistics, you know, language within society. How people view language in particular is so interesting. And it's true that if you speak a more standard version of a language, people will think you're more intelligent, people will think you're smarter, people will think you're nicer. But if you're speaking a dialect that's considered lower, then they think you're meaner, they don't trust you as much. And again, I used to think that speaking a language perfectly was somehow tied into morality. And it's literally not. You're not any better than someone because you speak a language better than them. So I would love it if we could leave our notions of prescriptive grammar at the door in 2020. I'll be leaving some resources down below if you're interested in learning more about this, but I'm more than happy to talk about it in the comments. So the next thing I want to leave behind, lip syncing. And I know what you're going to say, didn't you say lip syncing is fine? And yes, I said this because I understand that if idols don't lip sync, then they will get a lot of hate, that they will be questioned within their careers, whether they deserve to be in specific groups. But ideally, I would love to hear live vocals all the time. I would love to hear voice cracks. I would love to hear movement. I would love to hear mistakes, and I would welcome those mistakes. To compare today from 10 years ago, of course, it was a lot more raw. Were idols criticized in the past for their vocals? Absolutely. I remember when Chocolat debuted and people were saying, you know, they're not stable enough. Their vocals aren't up to par. But you know what? They still gave amazing performances, whether there was mistakes or not. But the thing is, people could criticize live vocals because there was actually live vocals to criticize. But you can't sit there and tell me that if they debuted today with the stages that they did back then, that people wouldn't tear them apart. Because the truth is, the majority of showcases that you see, the majority of debuts that you see are lip syncing. And if they're not entirely lip syncing, then the backup track is so much louder. We're just living in this kind of weird state where we're convinced that they're live vocals, but really when you look into it, it's not live, it's not authentic. I personally don't really feel much of a connection to a lot of performances because like I'm craving those raw vocals. But at the end of the day, I also know and understand that if those live vocals were present, that it would be really ugly. Not the vocals, well maybe a little bit, but do you know what I mean? Like the situation would be ugly. You know, for example, I mentioned that within ATEEZ, one of my old groups, that I don't hear San a lot, but at the Fact Music Awards, I could really hear his voice, and you could hear when he stopped singing, you could hear him actually gasping for air. And I wish more and more that audiences would be more receptive to that, because it's gotten to a point where an idol simply breathes wrong and then people are like, you don't deserve to be in that group. Think of all the other people who trained for years longer than you, who could have been in your position instead of you. Like, it gets really ugly. And you know, on that note of lip syncing, it gets to a point where companies are so obsessed with that perfection that even within concerts that are paid for, you end up hearing nothing. You end up paying for lip syncing. You end up paying for something that you really could have just Googled. And I personally don't think that's really fair. Recently, there was an online concert and people were coming to me saying, you know, did you see so-and-so's performances? They were literally lip syncing. I literally paid to hear my faves lip syncing. And I don't think that's fair. Lip syncing on music shows, sure. But when it's a paid event, when it's a concert where like the entire purpose of the concert is to connect with that idol, to connect with their vocals, then I just don't think that's okay. The next thing is the whole lazy idol situation. The most recent example is Leah. Now, here's the interesting thing, because I think, you know, it's one thing, again, to be concerned for someone, but it's another thing to kind of backhand your concern for them. Like, the way people are concerned about Leah concerns me, because it feels like their concern comes from a place of like, well, I'm only concerned because you kind of suck. I don't think Leah sucks. I think she's an amazing dancer and performer, but you know what I mean? It's like an excuse that people use to like say that they're concerned for her. Well, she's not keeping up with the rest of the members. She's not as good of a dancer. Her stage presence isn't as good. And it's like are you concerned, or are you just insulting her? She was recently criticized for her SBS roly-poly performance, but this definitely isn't the first time that people have come for her energy or her dancing skills. I didn't notice a damn thing. I did notice that roly-poly sounded a lot less majestic, but that's my second gen problem. You know, I have no issue with people being nitpicky, but it's when people are nitpicky about who they're going to be nitpicky about. And it's usually the same idols. It's usually Jennie. It's usually Leah. Because I could nitpick anyone. I could be like, this idol isn't keeping up with the rest of the members. This idol that. This idol this. But like, I'm not going to cancel them over it. I'm not going to say that they don't deserve the spotlight. So I would love if we could be nitpicky. That's fine. You know, I'm nitpicky as hell. But just to not be hateful with the ways in which we decide to nitpick. So leave that behind in 2020. The next thing I would love to leave behind is pretending that we know our idols when we really don't. We realistically have no idea if the people we look up to are genuinely nice people. You know, for example, this is like a really interesting thought, but I often think like, do you know, does my idol believe in this? Does my idol support the same causes that I support? And we don't know. Like, we really don't know. And here is the beauty in that. The beauty in not knowing is that you can make up whatever you want. Your idol could very well be totally against something you support, or totally support something that you're against. But if you don't know, then you can just assume the best. Like the hardcore issues in your everyday life where you're like, this is a deal breaker for me. Realistically, you don't know. But if idols were more upfront about these things and you knew more about their views on things that we typically don't know their views about, then there's no going back. You can't assume the best anymore because you already know. I hope that made sense. We don't know our idols don't know us, and we don't know what they would do in specific situations. We don't know if they're actually nice people. We have no idea. Another thing I would love to leave behind is actually streaming culture. Now, if any of you guys are second gen stans, please let me know in the comments, but I don't remember this ever being a thing. Like when 21 released a new music video, it wasn't like stream, stream, stream. In fact, if you look at views from 10 years ago, they really were not comparable to how high they are now. But also, I think when you look at music video views today, I wouldn't say that it's really reflective of the number of fans people have, but rather the number of fans people have who are willing to watch the music video so many times. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think the views on a lot of music videos are reflective of how viral a video actually went, but rather of how dedicated fans are to streaming it. And it's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with streaming it to increase views, but when it becomes like a chore and people like start imposing that on everyone, it's not fun. I've never been down with the whole streaming thing. I'll listen to a song when I want to listen to it. If my faves put out a song I don't like, I'm not listening to it. But I understand wanting the best for people you love. I totally get it. But as I started standing newer groups, right, I started seeing things along the lines of like, insert fandom here is not doing hard enough. You guys have to go harder with the streaming. You guys aren't voting enough. Shit, I don't have that level of dedication. I'm sorry. I'd rather just like enjoy the art of it all. And like if I end up listening to it every day, multiple times a day, then like it happened organically. So it's fine to have goals. It's fine to want the best for people. It's fine to like want that recognition, and through views you kind of inadvertently get that recognition. But to make it a chore, I'm not down for that. I literally could care less. Couldn't care. So we are going to be talking about diet culture. So if that's not your cup of tea, if that's triggering to you in any way, then please feel free to click out. The last set of things that I would love to leave in 2020 is idols talking about their diets. Honestly, anyone talking about anyone's diets, whether it's fans talking about their idols' diets, idols promoting their diets to their fans, I want to leave it all behind. This is another situation where I really feel like I need to call out my faves again. Like, I love ATEEZ, but if I hear them talk about their diets one more fucking time. And I know it's not just ATEEZ, it's just that I happen to watch a lot of ATEEZ content. The thing about idols constantly talking about their diets is the fact that when you're on a diet, that's literally all you can think about. Your body's main goal is to keep you alive. So when you're starting to cut calories, when you're not eating enough, obviously that's all your body is going to want you to do is to eat. So in going on that diet, you get hyper fixated on food, and your diet is literally all you can think about. So it makes sense that it's kind of the focal point of conversations for a lot of idols. And please keep in mind, this is a subject that touches really close to home for me personally because I have a past with EDs. So I'll be the first to admit that I'm very, very sensitive to this stuff. And this is another thing where it's really a societal issue, and I'm really not attacking any idols in particular. But here's the thing. I don't want to control my idols, and I don't want you to be able to even control your idols either. This is like an industry level issue, a societal issue on top of that. And I cannot dictate what they do or they don't do. However, I do absolutely take issue with idols who don't eat at all, or who eat very, very little, or who only drink water and then promote that to their audience. Because I know if I was younger and I'm looking up to these people and they're like, yeah, I eat 1 sweet potato a day, I would then go and only eat 1 sweet potato a day. That's exactly what I would do, and I have done that in the past. Any idol who mentioned anything about their eating habits, about their workout habits, I would go and I would imitate that to a T. And then I would go and promote that to other people too, and it was gross, it was disgusting, and I absolutely regret ever having an influence on anyone. And again, I'm not attacking idols specifically because this really does tie into diet culture, ties into like literally the collective culture that most of us live in, that being thin equals being more attractive, equals being better, equals being morally superior, and it's not. And companies absolutely play a big part. For example, when Momo was saying that JYP told her to lose a certain amount of weight, and she was talking about how she thought she was going to die. So it's not that I'm inherently mad at idols for speaking about this, but rather that they were taught that this was normal by either the company or through societal or industry pressure. So just a friendly reminder that these kind of conversations absolutely should not be normalized. They should cause shock. You're allowed to eat, you're allowed to enjoy food. So I would love if companies could leave this all behind, though highly unlikely. I would also love if idols could get better education on these subjects as well. And actually, I asked you guys on my community tab what you would love to leave behind in 2020. So let's read some of your comments. Idols dating should not be considered as scandals, and more companies should allow the artists to date. Not standing Kevin is a sin and should be left in YG's dungeon. Not being able to praise a group without a person coming and saying, oh, you're forgetting about insert group. Oh, this is definitely one of my pet peeves. I could be working like so many hours on a video, putting so much effort into like editing, and I'll be so excited to upload it. And then like the one comment someone will leave is like, well, why didn't you talk about this group? And that's not it. Like, it doesn't end there. So for me, if I don't talk about a group, then logically I must hate them. People will literally calculate how many videos I go without talking about a specific group, and they're like, I've noticed this and you must hate them. Why don't you just admit that you hate them? You must really hate this group. And I'm like, what? In some instances I get it. Maybe I did forget a group. In other instances, maybe I don't fucking know. But yeah, that is basically it for this video. Thank you so much if you made it this far. If you did, my watch time thanks you. Don't forget to leave down in the comments below what you think we should leave in 2020. Now, there are plenty of like really terrible things that happen in K-pop that I would love to leave behind, so please don't get mad if I didn't mention absolutely everything. Don't forget, you can also join my channel memberships by clicking the link in the pinned comment or even the join button next to the subscribe button. You can get a cute Kevin emoji next to your name for level 1. You can see videos earlier for level 2 and a Kevin emoji next to your name. And for level 3, you get all of that with the sneak peeks from level 2 and even member exclusive videos. These are the lovely individuals who help support my channel on a monthly basis. Thank you so much for your support. As for me, I'm gonna get going, so I'll see you guys next time. Bye!